There are too many games. I have a backlog that's like a mile long, and what do? Instead of playing through them, I just keep adding to it. I know, that's the definition of a first world problem right there. But still, it begs the question. What am I gonna play? I'm gonna play a new game? An old game? Or one that I've been meaning to play for years? Or maybe one that I've played countless times. Yeah, this is what I'm going to be playing today. I imagine most of you look at this and have no idea what it even is. I mean, what's a Ribbit King? Froth? Bonus disc inside? But hey, Bandai distributed it. How obscure could it possibly be?
Well, apparently very, because I rarely see a mention of it anywhere online. But if you were to ask me when I was a kid, I would have seen it as significant as the likes of Mario.
I loved this game as a kid, and it fit quite well in my, unusual PS2 library. But still, what even is this thing? It looks weird, and it is, but it is some of the best party fun around.
Ribbit King is actually a sports game, which I normally wouldn't care much for, but this is a bit of a unique take on the genre. It's golf, but instead of using a club on a ball, you use a hammer on a frog.
And if you think that's crazy, you haven't even seen the courses yet.
The main idea of Froth is to get it into a hole. Simple enough, but your ultimate goal is to have the most points possible.
So basically the exact opposite of regular golf. But how does one acquire these points? Well, you gotta do some of this, and maybe that, a little of this, with a sprinkle of that, and finally into the hole.
Good!
Okay, so it's a little more exciting than just golf. Because the simple act of using a frog instead of a ball actually changes a lot. The simplest change is that the frog is alive and has its own will, which means it will hop when it lands, it will go after flies, swim through water, and, well, get pulverized, eaten, carried, blown up, electrocuted, bashed into things, and burned to death. You know, your basic Froth tactics. Okay, so PETA would have a field day here, but to be fair, looking after your frog is actually a mechanic of the game that benefits you. If your frog gets hurt and tired, it won't perform as well, so the best thing to do is to roid it up and stick rockets to its back. That doesn't actually make it sound any better. On to the items.
There is a good amount of strategy involved. You basically want to mess around with as much insanity as possible. Your curiosity and experimentation is often well rewarded. The best moments are when your frog is just being thrown from obstacle to obstacle, bouncing on webs and going for long swims. Another interesting mechanic is that getting into the hole gives you a certain amount of points depending on the situation. Getting a hole in one, which is only possible in like a few courses, will give you a solid 1,500 points. Which is not impossible for your opponent to make up, but that many points in one round is very solid, being 4 rounds total in a game. After the first turn, the hole will give you 1,000 points, still a very solid amount. The trick is, though, that once a player makes it into the hole, the amount you get from the hole drops by 100 points every turn. And with there being 7 total turns, a lot of strategy can actually be taken from this mechanic alone.
My favorite tactic is to kind of go around and interact with as much craziness as possible while making my way to the hole. And if I am the last one to go in the turn, well, then I can just sneak in at the end and get into the hole, and I basically steal 100 points from everybody else because, well, now it goes down.
I've already mentioned items, which there are a lot of things that heal up your frogs and launch them further, give them a tighter curve, stops them from sliding, and that sort of thing. There are also different frogs that have different inherent abilities, such as a rock frog that can swim in lava, a mechanical one that gains more points from electricity, and so on.
Speaking of frogs, they all have such unique styles. It just shows off how fun the design in this game is.
I'm sure you've noticed how vibrant and cartoony these worlds are. Each course is dripping with personality and so many things to see.
I just love how this game looks. The style just matches the quirkiness of the concept perfectly.
Every world and character are distinct and vibrant in their own ways. Even though you do face each character twice, they have different outfits or variants for those second encounters. A good touch.
At last, it's payback time! Oh, hey, it's just a panda.
What do I mean by facing the characters twice? Well, in the Frolf tournament, of course. Don't tell me you don't know about the lore. Yes, there actually is a story mode in this game, which makes sense. The world is very lively, and so there's gotta be a story behind it. It's really just an excuse for the tournament to happen. Scooter and his trusty partner Pickwick, who yes, is a picnic basket, are called to the king of Frolfland or whatever, where he explains that their world is running out of its only power source, Super Ribbonite. Seems like this should have been dealt with earlier. Maybe this is commentary on how we as a society don't acknowledge the limitations of our own energy supply, and we just keep passing along until eventually it's too late to find a substantial solution, and all we can hope for is an act from God to bail us out. Anyways, conveniently, there's an interstellar Frolf tournament being held where the prize for first place is, you guessed it, Super Ribbonite. As it turns out, though, Scooter doesn't even know what Frolf is. Why did the king call upon someone to do something that they've never even heard of before? I mean, he doesn't really look to be the most, competent leader. Either way, don't worry about it, because Pickwick's
Got you covered?
So from here you basically just go from challenger to challenger, working your way through the contestants. The whole energy crisis plot really does take a backseat, to the point where even Scooter forgets about it by the end.
Hey, Scooter, the Super Ribbonite! Oh, yeah, that's right.
There's actually a second story you unlock after beating the first one. Neither of them are terribly long, but a good touch. I always appreciate it when a multiplayer-based game has something for single player. The strength of the story definitely comes from the character interactions in the cutscenes. As a kid, I absolutely loved these things. They made fun characters even better. You get a little intro to every character, and they're always really charming. The characters themselves are super weird, just like everything else. You have a Kung Fu Panda... hey, wait a second. Ah, very original, DreamWorks. You definitely stole that idea from this cult game that nobody played from 2003. Anyways, you also face off against a Rockman, a wind-up robot duck named Sir Waddle-Lot, my personal favorite.
Spring. My spring is unwound.
A slow ditzy princess with a talking hat face thing. 3 little whatevers, and one of them's named Poo-Poo. You got a gamer ghost, a Hawaiian gray alien, and don't forget the champion himself, a sentient gumball machine.
You're surprised, huh? You thought I was just a gumball machine, didn't ya? Oops.
That's 'cause you are one.
All these characters are full of personality and super memorable. But what are good characters without a good world to boot? I've already briefly talked about the courses, but now I'm going to show you some highlights from each planet. You got your basic first world, Ribbitopia. It's all greens and water. My favorite course from here is this one with the large pond in the middle. It's got fish and a pterodactyl that will carry you for a ride, and lily pads that'll fling you every which way. I think it's fun to try to maximize swimming time, and to try to combine that with lily pads and bubbles and flies around the lake. Then you got Lavatron, which has lava. This one actually has a good amount of variety, but the one with the most lava is definitely my favorite. I like that you can either go around the sides or try to make it through the middle lava lake. Or you can just swim through, or be an idiot like me and forget to give your frog the ice cube item and burn your frog to hell. Frosticle is next. It's an ice world, pretty simple. I'll give a mention to this course that it's just icebergs because it is actually super challenging. I find it hard to try to focus on the point bubbles and sliding into more points when I keep falling off into the water half the time. Tektron, the technology world. My pick has to be this one with the conveyor belts. I've always liked this one even as a kid. You can get massive points from these. I like trying to plan out a route around and up the buildings. Fun gimmick. Finally, we have Hypnotron, which is a space-themed world. How does that work? I don't know, don't question these things. Honestly, every course here is really creative and interesting, but I'll give special mention to this block dartboard world. This is by far the hardest one for me. As a kid, I usually didn't even get into the hole. You get massive points here if you play your cards right. Want some advice? Those rising platforms are your best friends here. Use them at any cost. So that's a little taste of every world in the game. And while the story mode is fun, computer players can only take you so far. I mean, they can be tricky.
Sometimes they're just dumb, other times they cheat and break the game and get infinite points. Cool. The last ones are actually pretty tricky, but what kind of breaks them is that they do the exact same moves every single game, so they're quite predictable. But multiplayer is where this game shines the most. I can go back and play it any day with my family or with some friends. It is designed very well, and I'm always finding new things in this game. And there is a surprising amount of strategy here. Not that I really knew about any of that as a kid. I adored this game as a kid, and within my family, it is a legend. I think it's mainly because it combines fun gameplay with an incredibly memorable presentation. And I mean, one of the craziest things about it? It comes with a bonus disc. I mean, I think it's pretty rare. I've never seen anything like it in any other game. But what's on it? Well, a ton of unlockable animations. Yeah, in case the cutscenes weren't enough. Nowadays, this would have been given as like some sort of code that you go online for, but back then, this was amazing. I think these were made for some Japanese show. I don't know, I wouldn't have known anything about that as a kid anyways. But it remains one of the most unique things I've ever seen with a game, and shows a level of dedication you would not expect for this sort of thing. But honestly, there are a lot of them. So what I think I might do is I'll just show you guys some of my personal favorites. For some reason, the animation that has most stayed in my mind is this one about a TV commercial. In-game, you collect bottle caps for doing different challenges. They're pretty cool and fun to collect. Kind of similar to trophies from Smash Bros, actually. For some reason, I've always really liked this commercial, and it has a fun ending. Also, these normal people look like an early Pixar animation. It's really cool how much the developers thought out the world, even if we barely see any of this in-game.
Excuse me, I can't get down.
I'm afraid of heights.
Another look into the world I've always found neat is this short Sluggy after work. Sluggy is the referee for all the matches, and it's pretty neat to see a bit more about him. Gone Fishing and Fun with Hammers are both fun little shorts too. We actually don't get to see that much of Cosmo or Gumbagoo's personality, so I kinda like being able to see more of them here. I also think that they are some of the more snappy and funny shorts as well. Frolfman to the Rescue is also a really fun one with a good ending. Everybody asks where is Frolfman, but never how is Frolfman.
But no one can catapult Frolfman to the game.
Someone, come get me.
Finally, I'll mention my favorite short. Actually, I'm going to cheat and pick two. They are connected, being Frog Revolution and the Frog Strike Back, both revolving around the frogs being fed up with how they're treated and Stage Revolution. I just think it's a really fun concept that allows for some great amount of charm.
Be back before dark. Stop that buzzing!
Help! I can't swim.
Why did we bother? Ribbit King!
That's the biggest thing that these animations offer. Charm. They really are the cherry on top of the whole package. So hopefully you're beginning to see why I love this game so much. And I put an endless amount of hours into this game. Yeah, no, it was set up to be such a long-standing game in my life that I'd play for years. Then my sister put the game in the case wrong and it broke. It sucked. It became a fond memory for my family and I, becoming this weird little game that I remember loving so much, but never being able to play it. It was only in my mind. That was until one fateful trip to a retro store, where I curiously went over to the PS2 section. I mean, surely they wouldn't have it. I mean, such a niche game and such a small supply? Well, there it was. Just sitting there unassumingly on the shelf. Of course I bought it. I didn't even hesitate. But could it really hold up to my memories? Maybe I just built it up over all these years.
Hell yeah, it held up. A rush of nostalgia blasts through my system every time I load this thing up. The worlds were just as vibrant as I remember. The characters endlessly charming. It just drips care and charisma with all of the fun I remember. Honestly though, it was kind of bittersweet. I mean, the game isn't perfect. My biggest criticism would be the content. 5 worlds
does feel a bit light, and the character roster could use a bit of a bump up. But just imagine what a modern iteration of this game would be like. A world this rich and unique could easily spawn a franchise. Experimentation on the Wii. Take it with you on the DS. The world could be so well realized. Huge, varied worlds, bigger levels, more characters, frogs, deeper gameplay. There is so much potential here, it is unbelievable. Think of the online potential. Online matches and weekly tournaments, progression with a leveling system, unlocking new hammers, items, cosmetics. No microtransactions. Oh, but how amazing it would look in HD on a modern console. It could really come to life. Even just a remake. But no. Ribbit King just came, and then it faded away. Nobody really talks about it anymore. I don't even know anyone who's played it. Hell, I don't even know anyone who's even heard of it outside of my mentioning.
It is the definition of a hidden gem. And while it doesn't have a long-standing legacy filled with games and attention, it still holds up today as an amazing quirky experience, filled with golden ideas and design, ripe for the discovery. And while it has been left behind by the gaming community, it will always hold a special place in my heart, as a defining game of my childhood, and as one of my favorite games of all time.
Thank you guys so much for watching my crazy ranting about a game where you launch frogs with hammers. And if you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing. I'm going to be releasing more content like this soon, so stay tuned. But I think that's all I got for you guys today, so till next time, see ya, and stay awesome.